It is ridiculously hot here in the studio right now, so I will probably start sweating. I'm just going to go ahead and let you know. Anyways, welcome back to Super Blood Moon Studios. My name's Corey, and welcome to the scuffest studio on the face of the planet. We're over here at our whiteboard right now, and I wanted to do just like a little bit of a rundown. I say a little bit of a rundown. I wanted to do pretty much like a introduction from the old to the new Realms system. A couple years ago, we came out with Realms of ELGHRUNE. This was our original edition. This is what we now call the Zero edition or Beta edition. Some of the stuff happened in this book that was out of our control. Some of it was within our control, but regardless, we decided to redo it. So this system is out. And then now we have this. This is our new book. We have it in nice hardback. No AI art because we're not plebs anymore. So yeah, this is the new Realms of ELGHRUNE system. And I wanted to do a little bit of an explanation as to what the actual system is. So Realms of ELGHRUNE takes place on the planet known as ELGHRUNE. We call it the dungeon planet, and it's because there's millions of dungeons below the planet's surface. Something happened way back in the day before the events of the game starts, brought all these pieces of other planets to ELGHRUNE, and everything merged, and people fought and drew lines in the sand, and then eventually there were some that brokered peace and some that didn't. The ones that didn't broker peace went down underground, and now you are what's known as a dungeoneer, and you will go and delve the dungeons and whatnot. So what makes this any different than a normal RPG is that this is a setting and system married into one book. The system is our very own system that we made right here in this scuff studio, known as the Secret Dungeon Engine. So the Secret Dungeon Engine is very, very simple. It is you roll, I roll, highest number wins. Very, very simple. You roll, I roll, highest number wins. And that is probably backwards, but you know what? We ball. So you take a D20 and you roll it. Your DM is going to take a D20. They're going to roll it. If you're attacking, you roll to attack. Your target's going to roll to defend. If you roll high, you roll the higher number, you have a successful attack. If you roll the lower number, it's a miss. If you roll the same number, you keep re-rolling until somebody gets the higher number. It gives it more of a dynamic combat feel because combat is like a dance. It's constantly changing. I've seen people miss with 18s and 19s. I've seen people hit with 2s, right? So if you roll low with this system, wait until you hear what the other person rolls before you decide, oh, I rolled bad. That in itself is the absolute foundation of combat, is the attack rolls and defense rolls. You roll, I roll, highest number wins. For initiative, we like to keep it very simple. I think Shadow Dark even does this, and I really like how they do it. Whenever it comes time to do combat, we like to keep everything as simple and streamlined as possible because it keeps everybody in the game, you know? It keeps you immersion. You don't have to look down at your character sheet as much. And so what you'll do is you'll just roll a D20. Everybody at the table rolls a D20. If you're the game master, you're going to roll for any NPCs you're controlling. You can roll for each and every single enemy if you wish. I don't recommend that. I recommend rolling for the enemies all in one go. Because if you play like old style JRPGs or anything of that nature, any kind of turn-based game, typically, not always, typically, your enemies all go on the same turn. And so we kind of like to get a little bit more of a video gamey feel whenever it comes to that. The highest number at the table will start combat. And then we'll go clockwise around the table until combat's finished. That way everybody knows when their turn is. They know how long they have to check their phone. They know how long they have to run to the bathroom. They know how long, you know, that they have, essentially. So that way it's not bouncing, you know, across the table popcorn style. Everybody hated that in school. I don't know why we kept that for tabletop. Anytime you do a dice check for like a skill check or anything, we're about to get into skills in here in just a second. You're just going to roll a d20 and add any necessary modifiers, right? But as far as combat actions go, you have 4 actions that you can take throughout your combat. You got your main action, that's what you use to attack with. That is what you use to interact with things, usually. Typically that's for like attacking, activating a perk, casting a spell, or an incantation. That's pretty much what your main action is. Your secondary action used for like, if you want to like drink a potion, help out a teammate or something, that's what your secondary action is used for. Typically, you're not really going to use your secondary action just a whole lot. And then you have your free action. That's where you're like, hey, there's a trap over there, you know, where you yell at your friend. If you play D&D, you're just going to feel very familiar to you. And then you got the hold action. If you want to hold an attack and wait for something to trigger it, you can hold. Whenever it comes to building a character, you're going to deal with 5 stats. You're going to deal with, I'm going to write them out, and it's going to be backwards because I'm cool. Strength, dexterity, faith, arcane, intelligence. So by the nature of Realms of ELGHRUNE, we're already a science fantasy system, or a science fantasy setting, right? So with science fantasy, you know, it's kind of hard to kind of gauge where that sits, right? Since I am one of the creators of Realms of ELGHRUNE, the other guy, he's not here right now, but he came up with the setting and I helped him connect the dots. I came up with the system and he helped me connect the dots. So it's kind of like a perfect yin yang of how we made this. But with the science fantasy setting, we like to imagine that we're somewhere in between Final Fantasy and Adventure Time, where it's more lighthearted when it needs to be. It's heavy-hearted when it needs to be. It's dark at times, kind of goofy at times, and it has a little bit of a cartoony look to it. That's just what we like. The way that this works, these are going to be the only stats that you're going to deal with the entire game, right? You're not going to have any sub-stats. You're not going to have any subcategories. Everything fits under these 5, right? Whenever you first make a character, each one of these is going to start at a +0. This is a base character. You can say this is like a level 0. Even though we don't have any true level 0 mechanics in the game, what you're going to do is you're going to start at level 1. At level 1, you're going to get 2 points to add anywhere you wish. You can stack them both in 1. You can spread them out if you wish. That way you can kind of build your way into whatever you want. And that's going to become important in here in just a second. Anytime you make a skill check, say you're trying to bust open a door, that's going to be a strength check. If you're trying to stealth, it's going to be intelligence. You're trying to hack a computer, stealth, you're going to be dexterity. If you try to hack a computer, it's going to be intelligence. You're going to be casting any kind of incantations, it's going to be faith. Casting spells, arcane. So here's how, like I said, this is the bread and butter of the entire game, right here. How everything is going to take place within these 5 stats, and this is how it's going to work. So say I wanted to add +2 to strength as level 1. All right, my character now has level 2 of strength, and I'm going to use an axe as my weapon, right? So what I'm going to do whenever I make my attack rolls, I'm going to add my strength to my attack rolls. So if I roll a 10, it's going to be a 10 + 2. I rolled a 12 because I'm using a strength weapon. Your weapons and your spells and incantations in this game are going to have prerequisites. That's right. You Dark Souls fans out there, you Elden Ring fans out there, your ears probably just perked up. Yes, it is a lot like that, right? Every single weapon in the game has a prerequisite stat requirement, and your spell levels have a prerequisite stat requirement. We're going to get into spell casting here in just a second. There's another thing with these stats, though. Every time you level up, you're going to get +1 into any stat wherever you wish. The level cap is 15. You say, I want to go ahead and add into faith. Say I want to build like a paladin style build. Add +1 into faith. Okay. Anytime you have a +2 in a attacking stat, say if you use guns, it's going to be intelligence. If you use axes, it's going to be strength. If you use bows, it's going to be dexterity. Whenever you add a +2 in a stat, Your weapons, we're gonna say your axe right here, and this is my crude picture of an axe. Woo! It's my axe right there, right? And don't you just love that fluorescent right there in the way? Let's move this over a bit, okay? Say I got my axe right here. Woo! Can you see that better? Good. So say I got my axe right here. An axe is going to have a flat damage, and I believe it is 5 off the top of my head. It's going to have 5 damage, right? So whenever you roll to attack, and you roll higher and that attack is successful, you're always going to do 5 damage. But if you have a +2 in any stat, any +2, you're going to add a d6 to your damage. So your damage grows as you go. And so what that means, at +2 you get 1d6, at +4 you get 2d6, at +3 you get 3d6, and at +8 you get 4d6. And 8 is your cap for a stat. Your weapon's always going to have a flat damage, and then you always add your bonus damage to it, right? It's very reminiscent of the Souls games and just RPGs in general, as far as like video games. But yes, that is how your weapon scaling works, because your weapons scale as you level, as well as everything is, like I said, it's all tied to your stats, right? Whenever it comes to spell casting, these are your 2 spell casting stats, right? Arcane and Faith, anytime you add a +1 into any of those stats, you will gain access to the spell lists that are available at that level. As you level up, spells are going to have a certain amount of tiers that you're going to have a prerequisite stat to meet, right? It's common, it's advanced, it's legendary, right? Another way that you got to keep up with it is you're going to have mana points. Each spell has a certain amount of points that it costs to cast. And you can cast as many spells as you wish in your mana points. And if you miss an attack, you don't burn your mana points. But if your GM wants to be a jerk, you can absolutely still have it burned through your mana points. We learned through a lot of playtesting that it actually doesn't affect that much. That's through our playtest. But like I said, excuse me, like I said, at your own game, you can do however you wish. There's no rhyme or reason as to how you can handle it. As far as your defense modifier, that's going to be based off of armor and shields that you either purchase or procure through your travels. And then also some things can add to your armors and shields. And it will eventually get to where you're rolling modifiers for your defense and whatnot. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. The next biggest thing is the perks, right? Every 3rd level, you're going to get access to a perk. For each one of these perks is going to build out your character in different ways, right? We have, I think there's like over 70 something perks. It's a lot. And there's a lot of build variants that you can add to it. And you can truly build whatever you want to play. We just don't like whenever games try to pigeonhole you in a class, because some people want to try to like dip here for this and dip here for that, and you know, maybe I found this really cool weapon but I can't use it. It's like, well, now if you build into it, you can. Once again, my name's Corey. This is Super Blood Moon Studios. This is Realms of ELGHRUNE. You can find it on our website, the PDF on our website. And you can also find the PDF for sale on itch.io. And I believe it's also available on DriveThruRPG. I'm not sure if we're through the approval process of that just yet. If it is, great. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Buy Realms of ELGHRUNE, play Realms of ELGHRUNE, tell us what you think about it. And yeah, thank you for giving us your time. And fair winds, Dungeoneers. I'm like super sweating. It is so hot in here right now. See you guys.